Call to order the Wright County Board of Adjustments for May 31st, 2024. First order on the agenda is minutes to last month's meeting. Has everyone had a chance to review the May 5th, 2024 minutes? Any changes or corrections? Do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Second it. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed, motion carries. Aaron, could you get us started?
All right, first item on the agenda is we have the Bonnie Killian request. I do believe the applicant requested to withdraw, but we'll still check and see if there's anyone here that would like to speak on behalf of the request. Is there anybody here that was going to speak on behalf of the Bonnie Killian request? And last call, anyone for the Bonnie Killian request? All right, so the applicant, they did request to withdraw their application to construct a storage building within the road and side yard setbacks that exceeded lot coverages without prejudice.
All right, do I hear a motion to withdraw the request without prejudice?
I'll make a motion to withdraw the application without prejudice.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, motion carries.
All right, and then Cheryl, they already had a withdrawal form, so. All right, next item on the agenda, we had the Tyler Patillo request. Could the applicant, anyone speaking on behalf, please step forward and state your first and last name?
Tyler Portillo, and I lived at the place I'm living now for 13 years, and we bought it as a foreclosure home.
One second, what we'll do is we'll give an introduction first.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I'll give a little overview of the property quick, and then I guess you guys can take it over from there. So the request, it is located at 3894 59th Street Northwest in Maple Lake Township. Property is 0.31 acres, zoned urban rural transition, and located across the road from Maple Lake, which is classified as general development. The existing impervious surface coverage is 32.8%, and the proposed impervious surface coverage is 24.6%. The request is to replace the existing home that is located 5.7 feet from the east side yard and construct a new home with additional living space that's also 5.7 feet from the east side yard. Variance is required to construct a new home 5.7 feet from the east side yard property line because there is a 15-foot required setback. The township did approve of the request, and that will wrap up my overview.
Thank you, Aaron. The applicant, have anything you wish to add?
No, I guess not. We're just, we're looking to try to improve what we got and build a new house, so.
Okay, all right. I'll open this up to public comment. Is there anyone in the public that, oh, you can stand up there, sir. We'll probably have some more questions for you. Yeah, sorry, yeah. Any comments from the public on this? Hearing none, seeing none, we'll take this conversation up to the board. And Dan?
Yeah, I guess I've got a couple of questions. If you're rebuilding and doing a new house, and you own both lots where the shed is on and the house is on, correct?
Yes, sir.
Is there any way, I mean, have you looked into trying to get moved off of the property line? I know you're reducing down and getting your lot coverage under 25%, but we're still not gaining anything on our side yard setback. Have you tried to look at the reconfiguring the house? I mean, for tearing down and starting new.
We were just looking to build on the same foundation is what we're hoping for.
So you're not gonna be changing the foundation at all? I mean, that'll be the exact same thing.
Yeah, if anything, you'll see we're, on that front, it would be a little bit less there because we'd be cutting off a good portion of that. So if anything, it'd be less than the actual foundation that's there right now.
So then, Aaron, if they're going on top of the same foundation, is the variance needed because they're going up?
It's because they're adding additional, so they are requesting to add the second level.
Yes, yep.
Okay. So then you're not gonna be getting any closer on
No.
that? And you will be removing all of those driveways and all of that, so we can get underneath our 25%?
Yes, just one driveway, and the 2 sheds that we talked about are gonna be moved back off my property.
Okay. I guess those are the concerns I had.
Thank you, Dan. Dan?
Yeah, that changes a lot of my thought too. I was kind of in Dan's, where he was going with that of moving over towards the shed, but you're gonna use the whole foundation. You're not gonna redo the foundation at all?
We're just gonna add a few blocks onto it, but
Okay.
but
Get
it's
it
gonna,
up higher or?
yeah, up higher, but it's gonna be on the same foundation.
Okay. Yeah, so it's just a 2-story. I guess I'd like to see what the rest of the board has to say then.
Thank you, Dan. Russ?
Oh,
I guess my concerns are taken care of if you're only going up. And I see eliminated shed and driveway. I have no more questions either, you know.
Thank you, Russ. Bob?
How old's the home that you're gonna be tearing down?
Ooh, I'd have to look into it, but she's pretty old.
Yes.
I'm not,
50 years, I think?
about 50 years or
Tax
at
assessors.
minimum.
Tax assessors have it listed as 1956.
Definitely in need, because the floors are, they're not, nothing's even, and it's kind of like sinking in, so we definitely gotta do something, so that's kind of what we're leaning on.
And I see the drain field is on an easement that's on property that's not yours. Is that correct?
Yes, it'd be my grandpa.
Okay. All right.
Well, I think technically right now, we did have a conversation with our environmental health officer. You guys have an existing septic on your property, right up to the property line. You can kind of see it where the arrows or whatever the hand is pointing at. If that were to fail, being that his grandfather owns the land adjacent, they were looking at doing some sort of septic easement to, resolve any issues, once again, if the septic were to fail.
So you're gonna use the same septic or that you have now on your property?
Yes. Yep.
And so the drain field easement is just a secondary,
Just in case anything were to happen to the septic where it needed to be replaced, we would put it back farther on the easement that my grandpa gave me.
okay, well, that helps, that helps. Yeah, at first, for new construction, I would not have been in favor of the 5.7. You'd have had to get to at least, 15 is required, at least 10. But if you're gonna use the same foundation walls and stuff like that, well, then it's more of a replacement than it is, that. Otherwise, I would have, if you were gonna, replace the foundation, I think I would have asked you to narrow up some. And you've had the foundation inspected, it's gonna support the new structure,
Yeah, everything.
Soundly and that.
Yeah, everything will be to code.
Okay, all right. Then no further.
Thank you, Bob. I think Bob pretty much shared my thoughts as well, so I am in favor of it. With that said, can I entertain a motion?
I'll make a motion to construct a new home 5.7 feet from the east side property line. It'll be going on top of the existing foundation. Site plan noted as Exhibit A and building plans noted as Exhibit B, and going no closer to the property line than existing.
Do I hear a second?
I'd like to second that with a little bit of discussion. Sure. If I may.
Yep, go ahead, Dan.
One thing, Aaron, would those 2 lots need to be adjoined then, so that they can't be separated out easily later?
I think we've discussed this. As of right now, we consider it to be owned in common based on the fact that there's not a home on the adjacent property and state standard. We don't consider that, I guess, shared lot line to be there for zoning purposes. If they wanted to combine it, that's kind of on them, but it also has a little bit to do if there's mortgages, anything like that, taxes being paid in full on properties, so.
Okay. I'm just thinking in the future, if you ever did want to split that off, that wouldn't be done.
As of right now, based on state standards, we wouldn't, allow them to split those properties, so.
Okay.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, the next item on the agenda, we have the Ryan Erickson request. Could the applicant or anyone speaking on behalf of that, please step forward and state your first and last name?
My name is Ryan Erickson with Erickson Home Design, representing my client, the owner of the property.
All right, I'll give a quick overview and then I'll pass it back over to the board. So this request, it is located off of Newcomb Avenue Southwest in Cokato Township. Let's see your property. It's 1.1 acres, zoned urban rural transition, and located on Cokato Lake, which is classified as recreational development. The Planning Commission did approve of the subdivision in 1987, and from what I can tell, the bluff standards were introduced into our ordinance in 1992. The request is to construct a new home within the bluff, and a variance would be required to construct a home within the bluff impact zone, and or the 30-foot top of bluff setback, which the proposed home would be located inside of all three of those. The township did recommend a site inspection, and they noted that they would provide additional recommendation once and if a site inspection was to be completed. The city of Cokato also commented, stating that they had no issues with the request, and that will wrap up my overview.
Thank you, Aaron. Does applicant have anything you wish to add to that?
Not at this moment.
Okay, thank you. I'll open it up to the public for any comments, concerns. If you have any, please step forward. Seeing none, we'll take the conversation. Oh, sir, okay. If you could just step aside for a moment and then,
Dean Malstead, Cokato Township Supervisor. This is, I think, the last lot on that side of the lake that was set out the way it was. Obviously, it was set out, as he said earlier, and then the new standards came. It's a little bit different possibly than some of the other lots, but it's really not that much different when you go and look at it. Did you guys do a site inspection? I never actually heard.
not yet, but we'll talk about one.
Okay. So it's not actually vastly different than the other lots around it or the ones, other houses that have been built there. Mr. Erickson's got vast experience with different projects, and so as far as the placement and securing, the property and the build of the house wasn't a concern for us. And we know the family who's building the house, and they have the means to be able to take care of that property and put all the controls in place that are necessary. So we felt really comfortable with that, and it would finish out that part of the lake. So that's the Cokato Township side.
Great, thank you, sir.
Yep.
Is there anyone else that wishes to comment? Add? Okay. We'll take the conversation up here to the board.
Thanks, Bill. Yeah, looking at it, I know as soon as I seen Bluff, I figure we've always did a site inspection on Bluffs.
Sure.
Yeah, I felt the same way when I looked at this one. A lot of house. My question, if Dean would have still been up here, is it something that the township would like to join us with?
The site inspection?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. We would totally be out there with you.
Okay.
Yep, we're open to that.
Great.
That's pretty much was my main statement. Thanks.
Russ?
I think I need a site inspection, because it's all hill the way it's described here. A bluff, I should say.
Right, it's right on the point of being defined as a bluff on where we're building the home. It's right on that, threshold of being considered a bluff, yes.
I guess I can't say a whole comment much more unless I actually see it. 'Cause-
Sure, yep.
So I guess I'm done, asking. I'll pass it on to.
Okay.
Excellent.
Thank you, Russ. Bob?
How old are the other homes that are along there?
They were built, I believe, late 90s, early 2000s, yep.
It always causes me to pause and wonder why, usually when a development goes along a lake especially,
Right.
most of the homes are of the same age, and why this lot was never built. It raises a question, you know?
Sure.
Is it an unbuildable lot, you know?
Right.
Is it just an RV lot? And so those are questions that right away come to my attention.
Right. I know there's a new home right next door, so on where the highlighted lot is, right to the north of that is a brand new house going up there. And then there was one, like I think it was lot 1 or whatever, was just built within the last year. So it's kind of been I've been a builder in Cokato for 20 plus years, and it's kind of slowly, people building there and, developing the different areas and stuff like that. So.
And is there there's ample space, but
Right.
is there for like a septic, you gonna type 3 septic there then, or what's the?
Yep, no, we have a septic design already designed out there, to make, and that was our first hurdle, make sure we can get a septic designed. So that has been designed and submitted to the county.
Okay.
Yep.
And, I see the surveyor put it in 1 foot lines, which makes it look, way steeper than it is.
Right, yep.
But, so in your opinion, how far back from the top of the bluff are you? In where you?
Yeah, from the, from like the 40% grade, the very steep part that's right next to the lake, I feel like we're at least 50 to 70 feet back from that point. I understand they're saying that, the whole lot is a bluff, but where it's the steepest point, we're well beyond that, from the bluff line where our house would
Okay.
start.
And you're far enough away from the road? You're 65 feet plus from the road then?
Yep, we're 65 feet. Yeah, we're well within the, the setbacks of the original lot development, where the house would sit. We're well within the setbacks of, the side yard, the front, from the lake and from the road, yeah.
Okay, and there's never been a house or cabin or any building structures on this property before?
No.
Okay. That's good, I'll be.
Okay, thank you, Bob. Dan?
I guess if we're gonna do a site inspection, but some of my concerns are, the same thing as far as building in a bluff and what this board has done in the past on Lake Sylvia. We've gone out to a couple of different properties and looked at them out there. When you talk about, if you look at the map where they're starting the proposed garage at, is at 1031, and the other end of the deck is at 107,007. I mean, we're talking almost 30 feet of fall. We're building, and I'm not saying it can't be done. I mean, you can build a house pretty much anywhere on stilts or whatever. But as far as this board has gone, I can't remember being on it and approving something like this in the bluff. So I guess I have some real strong concerns. I'm willing to do a site inspection, but looking at the plans, looking at the lay of the land and what we've done before in the past, I mean, it's a bluff, and you're talking 30 feet from the top corner of the garage to the bottom corner of the deck. That's 30 feet of fall. I mean, that's the height in this room probably or more. It's a lot. And we're building in it, and we're going to allow it. I have questions.
I feel like we designed the house, to fit the block. Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, I mean, as far as the design of the house and to fit the bluff, that's, like I said, you can pretty much build a house and do it correctly in anything on the side of a mountain. But our ordinance says we're not supposed to do that. We're not supposed to build in a bluff. We're supposed to protect the environment. And that's kind of where this board has gone in the past.
I was gonna point out, it wasn't your guys' packet, but the slight area that would be outside of the bluff is kind of right here along that north property line. Otherwise, yeah, I mean, the bluff takes up, based on DNR standards at least, for definition of a bluff,
Right.
takes up, the vast majority of the property.
Sir, you had a comment you wanted to make?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I feel like we designed the house to have the least amount of impact on the bluff zone. Keeping with the natural drainage of the lot already. It's already on the north side, and so we're staying well away from that. So it's the least amount of impact, on the bluff. So
Mr. Chair, Aaron, can you clarify for me, when this was all lotted off, was our ordinance in place? Or was this done first and then our ordinance came into place?
From what I could tell, it was approved and was in 1987. The subdivision, the bluff standards, the first time I saw it in our ordinances was 1992 when I looked back on it. I just did a quick kind of analysis of what's around. I did put no home here as of right yet, but they did get a permit in 2023, the property just to the north, to be completely outside the bluff. They have quite a bit of area. The only other person that I believe that received a variance was the person just to the south. I think it was to be 22 feet or so from the top of bluff for a porch and a deck. Obviously, the property that we're working with currently, that is the one that is most impacted by the bluff by far out of that entire subdivision.
I guess I was just trying to figure out what came first, the variant, the being it lotted off or our ordinance.
Aaron, I have a question for you. The DNR normally regulates or sets the bluff standards, and we adopt those standards, or?
Yeah, these standards are pretty much passed along by the state, and I mean, variances could definitely be granted to them. Obviously, that's why they're here in front of you guys, but we go off of what they say. Administratively, we can't like reduce a bluff setback or anything. So you have what's the establishment of a bluff, which we obviously have, and then where do you define the top of bluff? It's where over a 50-foot run, you receive less than an 18% slope. So a 9-foot rise over a 50-foot run ends up being 18%. And so in this case, it extends kind of in that picture I showed you. That was in the packets, virtually the whole property other than a sliver of that north property line.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. I think it's all agreed. We want to do a site plan.
Okay.
I think we'd like to have the parts of the house that are in the bluff staked out. That would be helpful.
Sure.
If we could see where that is.
Yep.
Anything else you can think of that would be helpful for our visit? Prepared ahead of time? Nothing? Okay. I think, just get that,
Yeah, I can get
the
that.
corners
straight down.
done there. and it'll
Sure.
be helpful. Great.
If I may,
Yep.
maybe the elevations too on the stakes.
Sure. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Super. To stake out the corners of the front that's in the bluff of the buildings. Is there a motion to continue this item, or set a site inspection?
I'll make a motion to do a site inspection, to be determined at the end of the meeting for timeline
Do I hear a second?
And continue.
and continued until,
June 21st would be the next meeting.
okay, June 21st.
Second?
Second.
Second? Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 So, great.
Thank you.
All right.
All right, next item on the agenda, we have the Kayla Jones request. Could the applicant and anyone speaking on behalf please step forward and state your first and last name?
Kayla Jones.
All right, so this request, it's located at 5147 53rd Street Southwest in Marysville Township. There's two lots, but essentially they're 0.44 acres, zoned urban rural transition, and located on Little Waverly Lake, which is classified as recreational development. The existing impervious surface coverage is 30%, and the proposed impervious surface coverage is 30.1%. A variance was granted in 1988 that allowed a new home no closer than 75 feet from the lake. There's no indication of a deck at that time on the plan submitted or talked about during the meeting minutes that I could read over. This request is to construct a 12-foot by 24-foot deck onto the existing home. That would be 65.3 feet from the ordinary high water of the lake, with a total of 30.1% impervious surface coverage. A variance is required to construct a deck onto the existing home that is going to be 65.3 feet from the ordinary high water line of a recreational development lake, whereas 100 feet is required. A variance is also required for the 30.1% impervious surface coverage, as 25% is the maximum. The township approves of the request because the deck would not be any closer to lake than the current footprint of the existing patio. Neighbors on the lake have other variances. The addition of the deck would not obstruct anyone's view of the lake, and it would have no changes in water runoff for the lake. A neighbor commented stating that they did not see a problem with the request. They mentioned there are patio doors and no deck, which doesn't make sense. I'll pull up the photo right there quick. But that will wrap up my overview.
All right, thank you, Aaron. Does the applicant have anything you wish to add?
No, just that we already have the existing patio there and the deck isn't encroaching any farther. It's gonna be slightly closer to the house than the deck is, so it's not encroaching any closer to the lake than the existing patio. But
All right, with that said, I think I'll open it up to the public. Does anyone in the public have any questions, concerns? Seeing none, we'll take it up here. Russ?
The concern I have is the pervious surfaces. Is there a way you can get that down a little bit?
So one of all of the surfaces was, when we bought the house, we haven't added any surfaces. We've actually taken down one retaining wall, which decreased the surfaces. Our retaining walls, I don't know if this counts or not, they're the boulder retaining walls. So I did find one document, it wasn't in my township, Marysville, it was in a different township.
Corinna Township.
That boulder retaining walls are 50% impervious, so that would, I don't know if that, in your mind, that changes anything. It's not a strict, straight, like brick retaining walls that I have. I have 3 retaining walls, which like counts for, I think, 639 square feet. So I don't know if in your mind, if a boulder retaining walls, that counts as less. Because, you know, water does get through that. I don't know if that would reduce my 30%. Am I explaining that correctly?
Yeah. I would just want to note that this document you're referring to, it's like a 2013 document from Corinna Township. Corinna's got their own zoning authority. I don't know if they still apply that standard or not. We do not, based off our interpretation of the ordinance and confirmation with the zoning administrator. So we do count boulder retaining walls as 100% impervious.
Okay.
Well, I guess where I have a thought is you probably get the deck, or but you should be giving up a little bit something for hard surfaces or surfaces, and that's my concern.
Thank you, Russ. Bob?
Your proposed deck and steps looks like it's 20 square feet of hard surface. So apparently you're over hard surface now.
Correct.
So, I see a shed, I see a paver patio, I see walkways. Can any of those be removed to get you down to your 25%?
Definitely a possibility.
So then I see your proposed deck is going to be 65 feet from the lake. We've, even though it's the house was there was a variance in '88 for no closer than 75 feet. I think this board in the past has for a deck allowed 65 feet. I think that's something I could support. I think you have some options of getting down to the 25% maximum. 30%, I can only remember a couple of times in the term and a half that I've been on this board that we've allowed anything over 25%.
Understandable.
So, and that's on a very, very, was on a very, very small lot. Then they really just didn't have any choice if they were gonna build a home at all. So I think you have some options. Maybe it's something you wanna go back and contemplate. I think the home was, obviously by the picture, was intended for a deck. And I think it would be nice, but I think you have some issues that you need to work through.
Thank you, Bob. Dan?
Yeah, on some of those same things, 30% coverage is too much. My concern is, when you're talking about removing retaining walls usually are put in place for a reason, I mean, they're there to hold something back, and to remove a retaining wall, I guess you'd have to consider it,
Yeah, I wouldn't, sorry.
just to get your impervious down and removing retaining wall, you could jeopardize other things on your property, and I'm not in favor of doing that. I struggle, I mean, as far as putting up a deck and putting it where it is and everything that everybody else has said, and your recommendations and stuff, I can't disagree with them. A deck on top of the patio already, it's there. But as a board or for myself, I've got to come up with a hardship. And where's the hardship here just to put a deck on, so we can sit on it and look at it when I'm looking at 30% coverage on the property and it looks like you have a beautiful property. I mean, just looking at the drawings and the pavers and sidewalks and the front, I mean, it looks like a beautiful property, and a deck would just enhance it. But we're looking at a variance, and we have to go through this process, and 25% has been a pretty solid number on this board up here. So I guess I would, if you can go back and do some thinking and to try to get down to that 25%, removing driveway doesn't help because you need a driveway.
Yeah.
So it's just a matter of considering some of the other stuff down by the lake. I don't know. It's a matter of what you can come up with.
Yep, and I did discuss this with my husband before we came here, because we found out with the survey we were over, and I was like, oh, rats. We wouldn't take any more retaining walls down. We can't. They are retaining walls that need to stay there. We discussed that large patio on the bottom that the deck is going over. So the deck is going over half of it. We could take out half of that patio, keep the part that's under the deck, or under the deck, and remove the other half. And that is, I mean, that's a decent chunk of.
Probably what you should do is, we should continue it, and you go back to the drawing board. You've heard what the board has got to say.
Yep.
And before we put it to a vote, one way or another, maybe just go and reconsider and try to see what you can reduce.
Okay, okay.
Did just run a couple numbers. So to get down to 25%, if my math is right, which I use a calculator, so let's hope so. It's 996 square feet that would need to be reduced to get to 25%.
Okay.
So,
What do you know if I took half that?
wow, just by looking at what the surveyor noted, they have existing paver patios as 1271, but I'm guessing they're including this one,
Yep.
this one up here, and the patio down here. So you might want to talk to the surveyor and see what could be done. That's just some numbers I noticed. And yeah, so the deck itself is going entirely over the existing patio. Where you're getting the additional increase in impervious has to do with the 20 square feet for the steps coming off of it. So that's where that extra 0.1% in impervious increase is coming from.
And we could move the steps so it's, if I took that side, that other half of the patio down, we could move the steps so it's not going on the grass. We could move it so it's going on that already part of the patio, so it doesn't add any. And then if we take away half that patio.
If you can figure that out, yeah, and then come back with the plan
Okay.
written out for us, that'd be helpful. So,
Okay.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Dan?
Yeah, Kayla, I think you're on the right path there to start reducing. I just did a quick math. I think it's about 250 square feet of pavers if it's 12 by 24. So it ain't all there, but you could talk to Aaron about those pavers on your walkway there and stuff that are only counted as 50%, might get you some too. But you can design that, but I'm with the rest of the board on, we'd like to see 25. The deck wouldn't be an issue then if you were at 25 for me. So,
Super. I think my thoughts have been said already, so I think what we'll do is we'll continue this item to next meeting. If you can come back with the plan that shows us how you can reduce that,
Okay,
we can go from there.
okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Oh, you need a motion?
I'll make a motion to continue this to the 21st for the applicant to look at her plans.
Here a second.
Second.
Okay.
Second, all right, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Motion
Thank you.
carried. Thank you.
All right, next item on the agenda, we have the Billy Knutson request. Could the applicant or anyone speaking on behalf step forward and state your first and last name?
Bill Knutson?
All right, so this request, it is located on Pleasant Avenue Northwest in Southside Township. The property at 0.23 acres, zoned urban rural transition, and located across the road from Lake Marie, which is classified as recreational development. The request is to allow a travel trailer 41.4 feet from the center line of the road as traveled. Variance is required to allow the travel trailer 41.4 feet from the center line of the road as traveled because it's supposed to meet the same structure setbacks as a single-family dwelling, which happens to be 65 feet from the center line of the road as traveled. I tried contacting the township. I don't know. I didn't get any response from them. Anything? I'm not sure if.
They had no problems with it, so.
Okay. Yeah, and they sent an email last night and they were wondering, so I sent them another form. I haven't heard anything from the township. So, I mean, sounds like maybe you've met with them, maybe you've spoken with them, but
Yep. Yep, well,
that'll wrap up my overview, so.
Thank you, Aaron. Does the applicant have anything wish to add to that?
not really, I mean, yeah.
Okay. I'll open up to the public for any questions, concerns. Seeing none, we'll take the conversation up to this board, and Bob, you started?
So you have a 1/4 acre lot. Why there? Why do you, why don't you meet the setback is always my first question.
Most of that lot is hill. So the only flat spot is about where, and then that's the perfect picture there. Then you see where the low spot is, where the water's sitting there. Mm-hmm. Yep. And then the rest of that, basically all the way around, both sides of the roads is hill. The only flat spot is where the camper is out to the road in that little section there.
Because I struggle to find a hardship when you have space available to put it somewhere else and meet the setbacks. Because you only have to move about 25 feet.
Right.
And you meet it. And so that's why I question whether there's someplace else that it would fit. What are those, is that some sort of a recreational area in the middle there, or what do you got in the middle?
Correct, that's
I can't,
That's a pool and a deck.
a pool, okay.
Yep.
And that was permitted last year, I think it was.
Correct, last
With that.
fall.
So, yeah, so the pool's good.
Yep.
Met all required setbacks, everything, so.
Okay. Yeah, are those 2-foot grades, are those lines, are they, yeah, they're 2 foot. So every line is 2 feet. I still question whether, it could be moved back to meet the setback. There's just questions there that, we have allowed, garages and things built at that distance from the road before. Usually because they had no other options of places to go. And so I'm still questioning whether you have options of someplace else to move that, but I'll see what the rest of the board says.
Thank you, Bob. Dan?
Aaron, one of the questions I had, if that pool and patio deck, if that would have been built outside of that area, would they have needed variances?
If the pool were to be built anywhere outside of the required setbacks,
If that pool was basically where the travel trailer is, 45 feet
Yeah.
from the road?
yeah,
we
the
wouldn't-
pool technically still needs to meet all the same setbacks from the road.
Yeah.
I mean, the side yard setback, instead of it being 15, now it's reduced to 10. But road setback, 65 feet for any structure here, so. And I tried looking at it from our R1 perspective, or in the R1 district, there's a provision about potential reduction of road setback. If you could find an average less than 65 feet within 300 feet of this, I couldn't do it. So 65 feet happens to actually be less than the average. So 65 feet's the setback we'd apply.
And this is on a township road? Yes. So the township maintains it and
Yep.
does come in there, okay. I guess when I was looking at it, you know, to try to come up with a hardship or a practical difficulty, and I had thought how Aaron would answer that pool and that stuff would need a variance, so either if you put the travel trailer in the area that it doesn't need a variance, you have a water hole or a wet spot, which you can't do that. And if the pool in the recreational area that they've got wasn't there, you could put the travel trailer there, but then to do anything else or patio or anything else coming in, we would be in the same position doing a variance. And like Bob says, we have been given permits closer to the road than that in garages and different things. I mean, we've always had questions and always struggled with them. Is that trailer gonna sit there permanently, or do you take off and go south in the wintertime? I mean, is it just something that you park there,
It's permanent there.
so it'll be a permanent,
Yep.
so. I struggle with it because there is area for it, but there's already existing stuff within the setback area that would have needed variances on top of it. So for me, there is a little bit of a practical difficulty here, a challenge to be able to get a place to be able to sleep at night.
Thank you, Dan. Dan?
Sure. Yeah, how long has that been there, the trailer?
We purchased, well, not the trailer, but the property itself, we purchased 3 years ago.
Okay.
And I believe that trailer is a 16, and I think it was brought in 2016.
Okay.
But as far as from my understanding, talking with the neighbors, there's been trailers there before and always have been a trailer there, I guess, so.
Yeah, I think there were some trailers there, and I think they may have gotten a little bit larger in size and moved around a little bit. But 2005, nothing. 2008, nothing. 2011, there's that smaller one. 2015, it gets moved around. 2018, 2019, or 2021, 2023, pretty similar, all in that area. So
I would have really liked the input of the township, because they're gonna be doing the road and plowing. But along the lines of my cards here, I guess there's some hardship there too with the deck, cause it'd be tough to move that. I'd rather see the trailer, cause that would be easier to move if the township had to get in there to do something too, so. My 2 cents is I probably will go along with it, but I would like to see what Russ has to say.
Yeah, I think what Dan said too, I think we need to get something in writing on what the township says, so I'd like to see that before we do anything. I can go along with it. The township, according to you, is fine with it. We just need to get something that in writing that says that. So ultimately, they're the ones that are taking care of the roads and planning that area and developing it, so.
Russ?
Go ahead.
Well, I think you gotta wait for the township to, the writing, because right now, you're in violation, but, I have no more comments, but I think we gotta hear from the township first before we move ahead with this.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
My question to Aaron, or maybe even for council, if we allow a variance here, just to say they were to come in and wanting to build a house on the property, that doesn't correlate anything that we've allowed a variance here for a travel trailer to be closer to the road. I mean, a house coming in would have to basically go where the pool is and meet all setbacks type thing. I mean, we wouldn't be setting any precedents, would we, on that lot?
No, I mean, any new structure, I mean, if it was a shed, anything that's not the travel trailer would be required to come back for variance anywhere inside of a setback. So, I mean, you could always throw that as a notation in your motion if you were to make one. But with that said, yes, anything that would happen on the property that's not the travel trailer in that same location would require variance, so.
Okay.
All right, thank you. I think we'll continue this item till you can come back with some documentation with the township. So do I hear a motion to continue this item?
May I ask one other thing? Sure. Aaron? Aaron, did the township had no response to you of a yes or no, huh?
We didn't, so our, geez, I don't know, probably 2 weeks ago, the mailings would have been sent out, did not receive any notification back from them. I sent them an email, was it probably Tuesday or Wednesday? They got back to me yesterday evening at like almost 6 o'clock saying that, could you send more information? So that's as much as I know. As of right now, I mean, the travel trailer's there. We do have the violation technically. But I mean, being that you're going through the Board of Adjustment currently, you know, we're not going to pursue anything subject to, right, if they make the motion to continue waiting for township response, you know, we would obviously push our process violation at least on until the next meeting, so.
Okay. All right, so their motion to continue this item? Did I do that already? No, I haven't.
I'll make a motion to continue this item until we can get a township response until the June 21st meeting.
Second.
Second that, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed, motion carries. We'll see you next meeting then. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would just say.
I second it.
I checked through my email.
Dynamite duel.
Or the minute you get it.
This one here?
Yeah, have a good one.
All right,
All right, next item on the agenda, or lastly, I should say, we've got the Lance Lauer request. Could the applicant or anyone speaking on behalf step forward, state your first and last name?
Lance Lauer.
All right, so this request, it is located at 7877 Braddock Avenue Northeast in Monticello Township. The property, it's 0.38 acres, zoned urban rural transition and located on Cedar Lake, which is classified as recreational development. Variance was granted in 2001 that allowed a 19-foot by 24-foot addition to the back side of the cabin that is 34 feet from the ordinary high water line of the lake. This request will be to install a septic absorption area 2 feet from the east property line and 1 foot from the south property line. The request would also be to install the septic tank 5 feet from the south property line. A variance is required to install a septic absorption area and tank within 10 feet of property lines. Township approves of the request because they quoted, "There is not much choice for placement of the septic system upgrades." And that'll wrap up my overview.
thank you, Aaron. Does the applicant have anything to wish to add?
He covered pretty much everything. Yep.
Okay, thank you. Any comments from the board, the public, anything? All right, seeing none, we'll take it up here, and I think, Dan, we're gonna start with you.
I guess, is there any way, it has to be, it can't get moved off the property line, none.
It really can't. There's no room. I've had the design guys out, several of them actually, and this is what they came up with, and for a design anyway.
Because it's through this picture, it's hard to overview to see if you could move it and get it more
So,
to the north.
yeah, so there's
Driveway comes in there, or?
there's a driveway right there. Yep.
I guess I look at it, you're 1 foot, and that doesn't leave, it'll be a mound system?
I think they called it a, I don't think it was a mound, wasn't it a pressure bed? Does that sound right?
Okay. So then it'll be at grade, it won't be any mound or any,
Right, correct.
because I guess where I'm coming from and some of my concerns is at 1 foot, if there's any leaching or anything coming off, it's going onto the next door property. I mean, 5 feet usually is enough that it doesn't affect too much. But when you get to be 1 foot, I mean, you can be leaching or ground can be soft on the neighbors. And I guess I have concerns with putting something that close to the property line. And how do you install it with 1 foot and not go across the property line with anything, staying within yours? And I don't see your neighbor here, saying he can dig on my half a foot or a foot of property.
Right.
Because it's pretty hard to put one in 1 foot away from a property line and not cross over. So those are some of my concerns. We're awfully close at 1 foot. So,
Thank you, Dan. Dan?
Yeah, I have the very reservation on a 1 foot too, but then my next question was, where's the existing wells of your neighbors and stuff at? Are they way out of the picture?
Yeah, there's, what is that, southwest is his wells, down by there's a dome house down there. I don't know if you can
Okay, I
see
see
it in
that a
the
little
picture.
bit.
That's where his wells are.
They're by the dome?
Yeah, yep.
Because my thought was, but I don't know if that works then for a septic, if you could move your driveway to the north and still squeeze it in there then.
Right.
I would have to talk to a septic guy though to see if that works, but, because it's been compacted, I suppose,
Right.
but, yeah, that's my
I
concern.
mean, I had one of our environmental health officers look at it. They didn't make any recommendation on it, but they gave me the variances that were needed here. I would hope that when they looked at it, since that's kind of what they do, they would have looked at it for the wells as well to make sure
Okay.
they're not placed in there, as well as, I would think the septic designer would have taken that into consideration as well.
I just always thought it might tie your neighbor's hands too if their well needs to be done, but the 1 foot is very worrisome as far as intrusion on the neighbor, so,
Thank you, Dan.
thank you.
Russ?
The lot just isn't big enough. You know what I'm saying? And I know you gotta have one. I guess I'm gonna see what the rest of the board, just listen to theirs. Thank you.
Thank you, Russ. Bob?
Aaron, could you go back just to the aerial photo, please? There you go. Yeah, there's certainly room to move the driveway. Moving that driveway is not an issue. That tree is disappearing anyway. For the septic system, there's certainly no reason, in my opinion, why you can't be 5 feet off with the absorption area. And what's the setbacks for the tanks? Are the tanks
Should be 10
10
from property
feet?
line as well.
Also, why can't the tanks be 10 feet off?
The driveway.
Yeah, so as long as you're moving the driveway, then the tanks could be 10 feet as well.
Okay, so, okay.
I'm not our septic designer. I just think if you are gonna note maybe on the moving of driveways, I think that could affect the term, I guess, like in situ soil, the undisturbed soil, right? It's been compacted probably because of the driveway, so that may change the type of system you would need. Which, I mean, maybe they could reduce it if it's like a performance system to make it a smaller, drain field area or absorption area or whatnot. But those are all considerations that might change the plan if the driveway removed, the tanks, not a big deal, but the actual absorption area moved might change sizing of it and everything. So for benefit or for worse, I don't know.
Yeah, he's going with a pressure bed, which is a type 4. So it's not a type 3 where you need a type 3. You'd need more space because that's for natural drainage. But a type 4 system is a pre-treated system. I just think driveways are something that could easily be moved. And I think that's where my vote would be, is that I think we should move the septic system away for the same reason that Dan said. It's just for maintenance, if they ever have to dig it up again and fix it. You know, we all know of septic systems that have failed. And so they're not just a one and done thing. And then the consideration of the neighbor as well. So I think my vote would be to have it moved.
Thank you, Dan.
Mr. Chair, where is the septic now? Is it
That's where it
exactly
is.
right there?
Yep.
So right now, it's 1 foot from the neighbor.
Yeah, I believe it is, but it's a different, excuse me, it's an older type system that they don't use anymore, so it's like a 10-inch round pipe that just runs there with a sleeve over it, and I don't know, however it drains, but this would be 5 smaller lines for better, you know.
Better absorption.
Absorption, yeah. So, and if I might add, I have the house up for sale, and it's a non-compliant, you know, it's not working, so I can't sell it then without tearing out the driveway. I mean, wow.
The tanks, do you have tanks there now?
Yeah, there's a 1,500-gallon tank right there now. They wanted to add another 1,000-gallon tank.
So would the tanks be going any closer, or being moved at all, or is the tank being completely replaced right exactly where it is and then just adding another 1,000?
Correct. Just adding another 1,000, yeah. Yeah. And the tree is gonna remain, hopefully. I know you said the tree will be gone, but the tree's gonna stay. They're gonna work around it, yeah. So,
I have a couple questions, but
Yeah,
alluding to what Dan was saying earlier about a possible failure and it becoming on the neighbor's property and stuff, where's the drainage? How does that flow? I mean, can you give me an idea of the topography? If the tank, we'll start with the tank, if it were to fail, where does it drop?
so the tank will backflow down toward the lake. There's a holding tank down, I can't see it in this picture, but down toward the lake side of the house, there's a holding tank or a lift station, I guess you'd call it. And when that's full, it pumps up top to the other tanks.
And so then where the field is, it looks like
Yeah.
it is still, it all eventually drains onto your neighbor's property, it looks like. Is that correct?
Yeah, I guess if it were a lot, yeah, it would, but it's pretty flat through there.
Okay.
I did have Scott, one of our environmental health officers, come down, and he's not a septic designer, but he might be able to address the questions, or at least a lot better than I could, potentially with distance to property lines, potential issues, whatever questions. So-
Removing the driveway for compacted soil. Yeah, that'd be a good one.
Good morning. I'm trying to catch my bearings here. I think I looked at this design previously. It was SB2 drain field that was hydraulically failed, and they're replacing it with a pressure bed. I think they're doing a dig out
Yes.
of what's there. Yeah, and it's just a really tight site. I think this is the only place to put it. Were there specific questions on the pros and cons and risks and whatnot?
My question is, if you move, can you move the driveway and put this bed on the existing driveway where it is now?
Yeah, you'd have to probably over excavate to remove the fill and compacted soils and then fill with sand, but it could be done. Almost any of that could be done. More work, maybe more trucking, but in theory, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess, Scott, what are, with this type of a system, in your opinion, as far as for failure or moisture going on to the neighbor, being a foot away from the property line? I mean, is that really much of a concern? Shouldn't be a concern?
No, not to me. It's not a concern. It's gonna be all below grade. It should all, seep into the soil and be cleaned up long before it hits anything. So I don't see that as a concern. Maybe if it was a mound, you might have a little more concern because then you have most of your treatment above grade. But this is going, below grade. All the treatment should be below grade.
Okay.
So I don't have any concerns in that regard.
Okay,
So-
great. It's very helpful.
I got one more now. You brought up, could you install that 1 foot from your neighbor without disturbing your neighbor's soil?
That's maybe a practical concern, is to be able to construct a septic and not trespass on your neighbor's property. It can be done in theory, but I would talk to the neighbor and ask him what his concerns are. Do you mind if we have to use your property for excavating? We'll make it look nice when we're done, as a neighborly gesture. But it might be tough, and that's another reason we have the 10-foot rule in place, is for constructability. How easy it is. It can be touchy. So
Okay, thank you.
yeah,
Thanks, Scott.
yeah.
All right.
If I may.
Yep.
With some of those thoughts of Scott's would helped out my thought really well. I would be really hesitant to do a 1 foot, so I don't know what the rest of the board thinks, but at least 5. And the tanks, to me, 5 feet is a good number for me on that. But I'd like to see what you guys.
Any further discussion?
How many bedrooms are in this house?
It's a 2-bedroom house.
So basically, there's no mound system whatsoever in it. It's just.
Correct.
But still, I guess you answered what I want to know.
All right, any further questions?
Listening to what the staff has to say about it, the 1 foot, my concern would be the excavation. We're not going above grade, and we're replacing existing, and I'm assuming the system is failing.
Yeah, the drain field doesn't work. It's just not, and it's not even saturated, so I'm not sure why it's failing, but they want to replace it, so.
We are on a lake here, and we are improving. And we're not necessarily going any closer than we are. I mean, there is a practical difficulty here. I mean, and we're trying to improve the lakes and make things better. I guess with some of the point of, on the 1 foot, you're gonna excavate over there, but if it's below grade, once it's in, you shouldn't know it's there. The neighbor shouldn't know it's there either, as long as it's not failing. But I can understand the 5 foot because we've normally done a 5 foot. Those are some of my thoughts.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I think 5 feet would be the minimum that I would support. A tree is a tree, you can replace the tree, just, rip it out, get it out of there. If the driveway has to be shifted a little bit to fit this in, so be it. It doesn't seem like it's going to be adversely effective, driveways can be moved, that's not a problem. I'm very, he has room, to move. We talk about a practical difficulty, the reason he's squeezing in there is because there's a tree in the driveway, and both can be moved. So I don't buy that he has a practical difficulty at all. I think he should meet the setbacks or at least, at least not the 1 and 2 feet. I mean, you should be at least 5 they're gonna use the one tank that you have now?
Correct, yep.
And they're just gonna add a second?
Yes, correct.
And the first tank is 5 feet from the property line now?
Yeah, I believe it is, yep.
Okay. So I'm okay with the second tank being 5 feet, but certainly that absorption area could be shifted over so it's not, 5 and 5 would work for me.
Thank you, Bob. I think with that said, any further discussion? Well, hear a motion?
Do we want to make that decision, or do we want him to come back with the agreement that he'll do five? Because even if this neighbor said it's fine, if the next neighbor might have some work and need to destroy his property again, so 5 is kind of the minimum, but is it something he should design and bring back to us, or is it something we could just say?
I guess if 5 feet is what we want, that's what the board agrees to. 5 feet is the number, is to send him back to, I think, if he wants to go forward, why stall him for a month?
Okay.
I agree.
I mean, if, it sounds like the board,
5 feet.
or at least enough of the board is solid at 5 feet.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to install a septic absorption 5 feet from the east property line and 5 feet from the south property line. The request would be to install a septic tank 5 feet from the south property line.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion?
All right, so just to point out, so I know the side yard with the neighbor concern, they're proposing, right about that 1 foot. You mentioned 5 for the tank. The distance to the east property line is the one that's adjacent to the public roadway. So that's proposed at, 2 feet off right now. Just clarifying that, you still want to see that 5 feet as well.
I do.
Okay.
So we're not gonna be moving the driveway like it's up to them.
It's up to him.
It's up to him.
And then these 2 trees, I don't see them. Can you point to them? Bring a map up.
There you go, that's one tree.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, so we have a motion, we have a second. Any further discussion? All right, all in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, sir. And we have one more item, and that is do we have another one on the agenda? Is that-
No.
Okay, so we need to set a date, yeah. I am limited, so you guys, I'm only have 3 days that I can work on, between now and the next meeting. One is June 5th, which is Thursday. I'm available Tuesday, June 11th, and I'm available June 14th. If those don't fit with you, then I won't be able to, but those are the ones that I.
June 14th, you
I-
said? Was that
June-
a Friday?
Yeah, Friday the 14th, and Tuesday, June 11th, and the 5th. Those I could make in the morning.
I'd like to see you there too, so 14th works for me. It's a Friday, so it kind of stays on our Friday thing.
I'm good.
Okay.
14th is fine.
Okay,
Give it a shot.
all right. Thank you, guys. I don't have the luxury of time like I used to.
8:30?
8:30 is good, yeah.
Thursday on Friday, the 14th. Where's my calendar?
All right. I think with that said, we have a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Good.
Second.
Second.